Welcome to Deep Dive Dialogues, where nothing is as it appears on the surface and the conversations go deep. Today, I have the pleasure of speaking with Ramon Clemente, a basketball player, an entrepreneur, and right now we're in Puerto Rico. Hi. And so we're going to get into all of the things that he's done, some of the things that he's doing, and of course, we're going to have some deep conversations that are added to the mix. So thank you for being on Deep Dive Dialogues today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm. So I want to start off with telling people who you are and where you grew up. How do you define yourself?
Well, the reason why she's asking that, because we had a talk before this, and she wanted to introduce me as a basketball player. And one thing I told her is I don't really like to be identified as a basketball player because it kind of puts you in a circle. So that's why we were kind of laughing when we mentioned basketball. But to answer your question, I'm from Queens, New York.
Okay.
Born and raised. And I would think around, I forgot the age I left home, but I've been on the road for about 21 years right now. 4 years in college. This is my 17th year as a pro. So, you know, once I left home to pursue my basketball career, I just hit the ground running, and I've been going ever since. Trying to be a role model for the kids in my neighborhood and kids in the inner city and whoever's just going through that grind. You know, we all have our stories or whatever. So basically, as far as basketball, I just use it as a vehicle to do everything that I want to do. And that's the main reason why I say I don't like to be just identified as a basketball player. Yeah.
And I'm all for that, not putting ourselves like in a box when it comes to those different things. But one of the things that I was thinking about right now is how basketball players, and I thought about this too when I saw like a few people get traded and they have to up and move.
Yes.
That is very similar to the military lifestyle that we live, where we're not in one place for an extended amount of time. And then typically like we don't follow that pattern once we're out of the job description. Like we like to move around. We like to stay in multiple places. We call a bunch of different places home. And so I think for a while, I thought that was exclusive to military members. And after have gotten to meet people who play basketball, I'm like, you guys are subjected to that too.
Yeah. One of the toughest things, like I've played in Israel for 4 years, Italy, Argentina for 4 or 5 years.
I'm kind of jealous that you played in Israel.
Yeah, Israel was lit, by the way. Shout out to Israel. I know we got the whole thing going on, but Israel is probably one of my favorite countries. But one of the toughest things of being that overseas player, traveling abroad is new cultures, new food, new teammates every year. Puerto Rico is a little bit different because, you know, I'm Puerto Rican and I'm very familiar with everyone here. But outside of that, new teammates, different languages, the food, and you have to adjust. On top of that, it's basketball. You still got to hold your job. We're on a day-to-day job too, as far as overseas. Like you get cut based off your performance. So even if I wake up in the morning and I don't feel like getting out of bed or my body's hurt or whatever, I still have to perform at a top tier, you know? And that's probably one of the toughest things. And then you can relate being away from home, family and friends. I don't want to say I wasted my 20s and my 30s, but I dedicated my 20s and 30s, literally my 20s and 30s to basketball.
Yeah.
So ever since I left for college, I think I left for college at like 21. And, you know, I've been on the road ever since. So I'm 21 years. It's a long time. So, but that's just dedication. It comes with it. As much as I can make it sound like a sad story, I'm living my life, you know? So I can't complain. I don't want anybody to think I'm on here complaining, but you know, at the same time, it has its goods and its bad, you know? Because
the sacrifice is time at the end of the day.
Yes.
And so even though I think that we look at the bright side of things because we have to.
Yes.
And it's like I do understand that with the job descriptions that we have, we get opportunities that most don't. So you almost feel bad for complaining. But at the same time, the sacrifice is time that you can't get back.
We're still human. I didn't miss so many birthdays, and my aunt had a funeral earlier in the season. Oh, yeah. Not to get so deep, but I made a decision to stay and not go to the funeral because I'm just, you know, I don't know if this is going to be my last year or not, which I don't think so. But I told myself, like I signed a contract with myself that we're all in with this. There's no excuses. Nothing can get in the way of this. Not a single thing in this world can get in the way of me not attending this season, regardless of the ups and downs or whatever. But I know his career doesn't last long, and I want to get everything out of this. I don't want to leave anything on the table. Like every scrape of everything is coming with me, and that's just what it is.
So with that being said, how did you start forward thinking into what you want to do after basketball, after playing overseas for 21 years?
Well, believe it or not, I've been like this since day one. It's crazy. They thought I was crazy in college because I was blogging and doing all these things before it was a cool thing. Like my college coach just called me in the office one day, like, you got to stop tweeting. It's like when Twitter first popped off. I think this was like '09. You got to stop tweeting. Like, you can't. Nowadays, it's like, if you don't have a social media, you're like a weirdo.
Right.
So
people think you're hiding something if you don't have a social
So
media.
I was like doing skits, and I'm doing anything outside of basketball, not to be different, but where I come from, like, I knew basketball was cool, but I knew basketball got to end at some time.
Right.
So it was definitely passion, but it was like, if something comes out of it, that's good too. And that's probably one of the biggest reasons that I even grew a social media following. It wasn't because of basketball.
Well, I think too, the kind of the things that we talked about earlier about just doing like community outreach, like all of those things are tied into public speaking and branching into something off of the court or outside, you know, on the outside.
No, I agree. And the thing is, just me messing around on YouTube, that turned into me learning how to edit video.
Oh, okay.
That turned into me doing skits. That turned into people reaching out like, oh, that's entertaining. And then from there, when people reach out, you want to know what's going on with these people. You start to talk to them. You start to step in these neighborhoods. You start to see that these kids, they kind of look up to you. So you kind of want to give them a blueprint. Now you're getting involved with the youth, and you want to be a positive role model. Now, like, you know, I did a lot of ignorant stuff on the internet at the same time, like goofing off and cursing, all those other things. Mm-hmm. But when you get a certain point of maturity, it's like, all right, cool. I'm not saying what I was doing was wrong, but there's another way you can do it at the same time. And teaching kids right from wrong. Because I know one of the things that the coaches didn't like in college on Twitter is I was cursing on my social. So and they were right.
So there's that thing of like when you're in a certain position, whether that be military, police officer, and, you know, ball players, that you're called to like conduct yourself in a way that's above the normal standard.
Yes.
And so then you have to start to censor like some of the things that you say.
But in the time, I didn't know. I'm like, oh, y'all coaches is being haters, and they were just looking out for me to protect myself. And I'm glad.
In your image.
Yeah. And I'm glad that they did do that, because I learned media training in college. Coach Greg Marshall, shout out to Coach Marshall.
Did you guys had like legit trainings on media?
No, he pulled me in the office and I was very arrogant in college. And one day he told me, Coach Marshall said, Ramon, you ever heard of a stealth bomber?
A what?
A stealth bomber.
A stealth?
Stealth bomber. And he said, the stealth bombers, when they come, you don't hear them. And by time the bomb is coming down, that's when you hear the plane. And that's when you hear it taking off. That's when it's loud. But by the time it's loud, it's too late. So basically, he was telling me was, like, don't do all of the extra before. Wait till things happen first. Then you could do your talk and your everything. So that taught me more of a humble standpoint through the media. But there's just certain things he just taught me how to conduct myself. And even in the time, I never understood it until later on. So I'm saying all that to say, you know, you're saying things outside of basketball, all of those things, like, it came together. Like, I really did not understand in the moment. But as time went on, as I grew, as I'm an overseas player now, it's different. You're not in college no more. Nobody's going to hold your hand. You got to conduct yourself.
So what is that like? I know you don't want to harp on that, but I haven't met many overseas players. So like what is a typical day like for you?
It depends. Right now or back then? It's two different people right now.
Compare and contrast. Like, how was it back then and how is it now?
Before right now, and I'm turning up. I'm in the clubs. We outside late and getting in 4 a.m, going to practice 9 a.m. like it's nothing, and doing it all.
But would you say younger players still probably do that?
I would think so. I don't really hang around young guys like that anymore, so I don't know. But I would assume that they do that. Because you're practicing for 2 hours of the day. Okay. If you have a game, maybe 3 hours of the day. You got 21 more hours to recover whatever you want to do. If you want to do backflips, so that you could do it. So it wasn't really that hard of a job, especially when you're super young and you're in a whole new country. And I've never owned a car a day in my life. And they just give you a key to a car and a key to an apartment and say, here's some money in a foreign country where. But
because I'm thinking about how that relates to military life, because that sounds like what they do to us. But because we have the ranks, you don't get all that money just starting out. So like when I was, starting out as a E1 or whatever, I got like $1,000 a month.
We used to go to a military base in Italy
Yeah.
and get discount food. I hope I don't get anybody in trouble. But
No.
we used to, I had a friend in Italy. I'm going to say his name, but we used to go to the, what do you guys have? They were selling PlayStations and everything.
Like the commissary?
Yeah, it was like his own
the
market.
exchange. Yeah.
And he just, all the American food we needed, like, it was love. So,
yeah.
I wouldn't say it's that much off. The only difference is you guys are risking your lives. We're just playing ball.
Well, I feel like nowadays, and I would say this, I feel like sometimes us military people can like ego trip and think like we have the most dangerous jobs, but
I do have the most dangerous
my
jobs.
parents are police officers. I feel like they face, this is just my opinion, depending on the job field, they face more danger every day interacting with people versus the military when we're actually in wartime, going to hand-to-hand combat. Even teachers. So like I've done teaching jobs while I've been...
The reason why I agree is because I think as far as a police officer is you don't know who is who.
Exactly.
When you're in the military, it's like we know that we're in this country and somebody probably want to take our heads off. In a sense, I'm not saying everyone in the country, but you know, like, especially if it's wartime, or let's just say like we're going to, I don't know how common it is to go to war nowadays, but if we're going to invade a space, we know they're going to shoot this way.
Right.
But at least you know, you can take cover versus being in a neighborhood. They have you in the middle of Brownsville, Brooklyn, and you just don't know what's going to go on.
Yeah, you could be going up for a traffic stop and then, and so I kind of like, when people ask me like why I joined the military, I always say that I feel like I kind of lived that lifestyle growing up because both of my parents, my mom and my stepdad were cops.
Yeah.
And so we grew up in a more rigid, disciplined environment where they constantly like reminded us of that reality that any single day, like your life can be gone or any interaction, you take it serious because
you're not scared?
What
was your scariest moment? I'm sorry, I'm gonna flip this real quick. What was your scariest moment in the military?
My scariest moment in the military? I would say my scariest moment in the military, probably it was supposed to be a friendly moment, but like when our ship was going through the Straits of Hormuz.
And ship?
Yeah, so I was deployed on aircraft carriers.
And I can't swim, bro. Oh my God.
So that whole deployment would have been scary for you.
Yeah, man. Like water and jumping out of shit is just not my. Oh, I can curse. Sorry, my bad. Bleep that out. But water and like.
So like our ship was going through the Straits of Hormuz, and the people, when they see the U.S. Navy ship coming in, they get excited. So they come out on both sides. So it's like a very narrow passageway, and it's like a really big ship. So people were coming out, but that I would say like thinking about it, like that's when we're most susceptible and vulnerable to actually people being in like they wanted to do. Yeah. So that was kind of like a little bit nerve wracking. There's a few instances that I had on deployment where like other ships got too close. And once they get in a certain proximity, you may not know what they're
Do you have to get like armed and ready or?
We always stay ready.
Yeah, man, y'all got it. That's tough.
Yeah. So, I would say like, but yeah, it's a lot different from hand-to-hand combat. So, but because of growing up in that mentality, I feel like there's other things that I face on a daily basis that are a little bit more scary than maybe going to work every day.
Yeah, no, I agree. You know what's crazy? I lived in Israel for 4 years, and one thing that was...
Well, what about that? Because isn't there always war going on there?
When I was there, it was never war.
Okay.
Maybe a missile or two. Sounds very casual, but you know what was one of the craziest things to see?
What?
A teammate coming to practice with a big-ass gun and just put his gun on the side in his bag.
See? Do you see what I'm saying? You say, I have the most dangerous job. That's never happened in my job.
These kids are 16, though.
It's never happened in my job.
These kids are like 16. And usually it's the young guys, 16, 17, probably in high school.
Yeah.
Everyone has to go to the military.
But think about that. Unfortunately, there's been more school shootings. So I think about teachers and stuff like that. It's like
that's so scary,
them going to work every day. It has to be more militant than actual. And I'm not trying to compare it because they're different job fields.
My take on that, what I think teachers should do.
What?
I cut you off. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. What do you think teachers should do?
I think they should give teachers guns.
Not
to shoot a kid, but at least to
elicit more violence.
The classroom.
I feel like it's a distraction.
No. I don't think anyone should know. I'm sorry. I hope I'm just
You're
talking.
not. We're just talking.
All right, cool. I think there should be a safety box with their fingerprint on it.
Okay.
I think the rooms should be able to lock down some technology. And this is school. They should add some technology in.
This sounds like 007.
No, these are common things that you can have on the in the like in my house in Georgia, I control my locks from my phone.
Okay.
So it's not like it's anything like this major. You can get these things for $20 if you wanted to.
Uh-huh.
The lock box, they sell them just for like $50 probably. You get like a finger scan thing.
So you think that teachers should be armed with guns, have them in lock boxes, and then if someone were to come in, to hurry up and activate their fingerprint and take it out?
No, I think as soon as they come in, they should do lockdown first.
Okay.
They should do lockdown. I think they should have bulletproof glasses. I don't care what school it is. It's the Board of Education. We have the money.
So bulletproof glasses where?
In the little windows.
Okay. Those can be done tastefully.
Yeah, we have it in corner stores. If you go in a corner store and the ox behind the window, he ain't talking, almost curse. He's not talking crap because the window is shattered. He's talking because he knows no one can get through.
But you have to keep in mind, you're thinking New York mentality. If you go to corner
we don't shoot schools up in New York.
No.
So I'm not thinking New York mentality.
No, I'm saying you go to the corner store. The corner stores I go to, they don't have those.
Oh, well, what I'm saying is it's very common to have them in a lot of corner stores. Not all corner stores, but a lot of the inner cities, they have those corner stores. Maybe this might be a little bit expensive, but I don't want to say what we waste our money on as the United States of America. But if we could spend money
on what, so I feel like, here's my take on that. I don't think you're wrong if you're thinking from a perspective of protective security measures. I don't think you're wrong, but I'm all for getting to the root of the problems. And I feel like the root of these issues are the kids with mental health problems and mental health problems as a result of bullying, how they're treated, their environments. And so even when I've been in teaching situations with kids, I'm like, why don't we get them a better environment? Why don't we we can't fix everybody's home situation, but why don't we make sure that they have the proper nutrients, food, like those things all contribute to how they behave. So I feel like instead of doing more damage control by throwing money at security measures, that more money should be thrown to the root of the problem. I'm not saying we can't do both either.
That's what I'm about to say.
Okay.
We should do both. Because the thing is, listen, I was a bully in school. I've been bullied in school. Like growing up where I grew up in Queens, New York, I hadn't seen it all. And sometimes it's not always mental. Sometimes it's just being stupid. Like I've been a stupid kid before. I've hung out with stupid kids before. Sometimes we do things just cause. I think the reason why we do things just because the influence of what we see on the TVs, the influence of what we see in the neighborhoods.
True. And
where I come from, it's going to sound crazy and arrogant, but we influence the hip hop world, and the hip hop world was spread out to the world. And the reason why I say this, because when I was growing up, the biggest rappers in the world was from New York. Not only from New York, they were from my neighborhood.
That's where it started.
Yeah. So the thing is, when you have your 50 Cents and your LL Cool J's and Ja Rules and all these people grew up literally Run DMCs in my neighborhood. And the neighborhood is not so much influence from the rappers. We influence the rappers because the rappers are living around there. It's just that.
And they're talking about what they're seeing.
Yes. And then when they take these stories and they talk about the things that's going on, even if it's not their life, they put it out there. Now that goes from, it's probably a dude in Atlanta that heard a dope, it's different now because of social media. You can just, if I want to learn Chicago slang, I could just look through the phone. But the difference is now, then is they put it out there. There's probably a kid in Atlanta. They probably listen to a DMX song. And I'm not saying, I'm just throwing random rappers out. But they certain things and they're influenced in certain ways. So it was a little bit different then to just grow up around it. We didn't even have to listen to the music. That's just what was going on. Now it's going certain parts. Everybody's talking about slums and carrying poles and smoking on your dead homie. And it's like a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
I can't judge these kids because I was ignorant once upon a time. Literally, me and my boys just, we're bored. Let's go beat somebody up.
Or if they're also talking about what they're seeing, then it's how can you deny somebody's truth? Because essentially that's what we're saying. If the rappers started off talking about what they see in their environment, maybe they didn't intend on other people replicating that. Because the whole point of talking about it was so they would have people to listen to them.
A lot of them are glorifying it too.
But
because that was the cool thing to do.
Okay.
It's not like these guys were I'm doing this and we did this. Don't do it. No, they're saying we did this and you're not going to do anything and don't come to my hood.
But if you think about it, back in the day, NWA, some of them had political agendas that they were genuinely pushing in order to make a difference in the environment that was going on.
Public Enemy, but you want to know the truth?
What?
I ain't listening to that. I'm keeping no offense to NWA or Public Enemy, but I didn't want to hear that. That's just me being real. I didn't want to hear Flavor Flav, Fight the Power. It was a dope song.
I met Flavor Flav.
Really?
Yeah.
That's dope.
They had an event called the Black Expo in Indiana where all these black
Good
businesses
energy, huh?
conventions would come. And his clock was plastic, though. I was disappointed about that. I thought it was going to be like a real metal.
You know what's crazy?
What?
I remember I was a kid, like super jit, and LL Cool J walked through my block by himself. This is young LL. Like, you could tell he was just
Did he lick his lips?
I don't know. I was looking at his lips. But it was dope because you can tell I don't even know the time. It had to be either, I'm about to say my age. It had to be really early 90s or like the end of the I don't think I was 5. It had to be a little bit older. But I remember LL by himself walking through my block and we're all running like, it's LL, we're gonna. But that's what I mean by like, that's how close the rappers was. This is before In the House Show. Mm-hmm. This is before LL was like OD LL. He still had the doing it. And he had those songs are out.
Yeah.
But it was still LL. So, but mind you, I'm saying all that to say everything isn't mental issues. We just heard certain things and that's just what it was. So that's why I say defend. Like, I think the teacher should, at least I'm not, because the thing that sucks about it is I'm not saying the teacher should have a gun and aim at a kid. No, I'm not saying that.
Right.
But if we can do lockdowns, hey kids, we got like a certain type of drill, the same way we have fire drills. Mm-hmm. This is just the situation. Because if not, man, one of those schools, I don't want to get into conspiracies or whatever they had going on, but from what I've seen, the facts that was going on, like one of the schools got shot up and the security wasn't really doing nothing. They was kind of, you know what I mean? So,
well, that's also too, because I feel like some of those situations, even if people are trained properly, the fight, flight, or freeze, people don't actually know which one is going to come into effect until they're in a situation. There's been times where I've been in certain situations where my freeze will come on and I'm just like, is this real life? And then there's been other times where fight will come on. And I'm like, oh, I didn't anticipate picking that one today. And so I think that even though people are like, they should be trained to respond, I think that goes back to kind of what we were discussing earlier, where I said, we're switching to language. When we were talking about language, and I said, you can have the base knowledge on something, but that doesn't mean that it will turn into actionable.
I agree.
Like, yeah. So you can know it, but not know how to implement it.
It's funny you say that. I live in Georgia, so I have the right to bear arms. Mm-hmm. And one thing I do, I make sure I go to the range all the time. And I always tell people, like, people think they're tough and all these other things because they have a gun on them. I always tell people, go to a range and try to focus on that target when someone's next to you with I'm going to curse, but something bigger than yours.
I've had that. I've had that happen.
It's a different conversation.
I've had that happen to me before.
Now what's happening when that guy that's next to you in the range is across the room from you? You're not going to stand up and be Rambo. It's a different conversation, you know?
So when I was there practicing shooting, even as long as I've been in, sometimes I'm still nervous. And when I'm there practicing, there was a guy who did look like Rambo. I mean, he was some type of special ranger or whatever that came in there and had like 3 or 4 guns. And the way that he was just, it's like, it's hard to not look out of your peripheral and be like, okay, is somebody going to act right? Or, you know?
Yes.
And so, yeah, I definitely think that, that makes sense.
It's cool being the toughest guy in the room when you're the only person with it. But now, so I hear what you, and that makes sense. It might be little Miss Cramtree, probably 70 years old. And we talk about Miss Cramtree, we need you to hold it down. Here's the 100-round clip. Like, it can't be like that. So that makes sense. But I still think there should be
so what are alternatives for people who don't believe? Because you have to
put a security guard in the room.
Okay.
I don't think that'll help.
I feel like that distracts.
It does distract.
Because the learning environment has to be optimum.
I'm just trying to figure a way. Because the thing that sucks is how many schools are there?
Yeah, but
countless amount.
But here, I feel like even though they say that we can never be vigilant enough and we'll always miss something, I feel like if people are paying attention, like when I teach kids, I can tell the kid that's disgruntled. I could tell the one that has something going on. I could tell the one that's always skipping.
But their parents don't be knowing. They think children are angels.
Yeah, I think if people are more vigilant instead of saying like, it's not my job or I have too much going on, even though that may be the case because teachers are overworked and underpaid. I still think that there's other solutions that don't cause for more distractions with security measures.
So you think by making sure everybody's mental is right? Look.
Not mental. I'm saying that there's other basic needs that sometimes are not covered, which contributes to unstable mental states.
But the thing is, some of these kids, a lot of these kids that be shooting these schools up, it's really nothing wrong with a lot of them. Not a lot of them, but I don't know the numbers. But I've seen a certain amount. There's nothing wrong with them mentally. They're just tired of getting bullied.
Or they're bored.
Not even, well, I don't know about that part. I can't speak on that. But I know a lot of kids are bullied. Like I said, I was a bully before. Like in junior high school and high school.
You used to bully kids?
Yeah, bully kids. Kids bully me. It went
both ways.
In the environment that I come from. It was if you come to school with Payless sneakers, they're gonna roast you.
Yeah.
If you got on some trash clothes, they're gonna get at you. And as much as I hated it happen to me, this is like a trickle effect. Like I hated it when it happened to me, but when I saw it, oh, it's my turn. I'm like, yo, but this is just the environment. And we were in a thick skin era. Like you could tell it through the comedy. You could say whatever you want, and it was no backlash, no nothing. So yes, I was a bully. I've been bullied. I'm not proud of it. I have a whole podcast episode about that. But and I was like apologizing to people that I actually bullied. Yeah, bullied. Like I'm not proud of it at all. Yeah. But you know, when you grow and you get older, you can kind of forgive yourself. That's why I don't like to hold on to too many grudges from a childhood, because the same way
I say that, but then there's sometimes where I'll be honest about that. There's sometimes where I'm like, I think that I let something go, but then I'll be in the car thinking about it. I'm like, I want to call that individual.
You know why it's not right?
Why?
Because there's someone that feels some type of way towards you for something that you did.
But here's the thing. If people, and this has happened to me before, I could say something, because I feel like that happens in life. You say something, you're not thinking about that thing that you said, but it leaves a stain on somebody else, right?
Yes. And especially as a youth, you're not going to remember that stuff.
But here's the thing. If they call me and say, hey, like me and my brother, I feel like that's why we have an awesome relationship. Yeah. Because he can call me and say, hey, I thought about what you said yesterday, and I think you're blah, blah, blah. I'm like, let's hear it. And so then we'll talk about it. I may still disagree at the end of the day. But I give him that space to be able to bring it up to me without saying, oh, you're just in your feelings or whatever. It's like, if you feel some type of way about it, let's talk about it. And anybody who would want to do that, I would open the door for that. So I feel like it's wrong if you have an issue and you talk to somebody else about it instead of talking directly to the person. But the thing
is, though, you talking about yesterday. I'm talking about something maybe 10 years. Listen, I still have childhood traumas. Larry, when I see you, Larry beat me up in the 8th grade, man.
Yeah, you got beat up. I got beat up by Kiki.
Yeah. Yeah. Yo, Larry, when I need my fade, bro. As much as I want to dead it, I just want my fade, and we can dead it.
What if he would still give you a fade?
I'll take that. I learned my lesson after that. After that, I was willing to take I don't want to curse, a butt kicking ever since. But Larry, when I see you, let's just talk it out, hash it out, man. We get that fade going. I'm grown, but it's little things like that bothers me still. But and that's just I'm just joking around with the whole Larry situation. Yeah. But the thing is, like, I do have childhood trauma where I don't want to say names or anything, but it was something like I call people like, yo,
I do that.
This hit this dude tried to play me when I was a kid, and like I'm old now, and when I see him, and I don't want to say any names or anything. It's gonna sound crazy. I hit his mom's up.
And what'd you say?
I told her what it was. I swear to God. Reese's within the last 6 months.
So when she caught him and
I didn't want her to tell him. I just wanted her to understand that I wasn't that kid that I was painted out to be.
Oh, okay.
You know, and I'm scared to be around that guy because I don't know how it would be. But the thing is, the reason why I had to let it go, I told you I bullied people before. Yeah. They probably feel the same way about me. So it wouldn't be right for me to, if someone was to call me tomorrow and say, yo, Ramon, you did this, this, and this. Yeah. I'm like, damn, bro, like let me live. My bad. I'm sure this person will want the same thing. So you can't ask for one thing, for forgiveness from one, and then you're holding someone else accountable.
That's the Bible. It says, forgive others so you too can be
That's
forgiven.
Crazy. I'm not big on the Bible. That's dope. That's it's a train of thought.
Forgive others so you too can be forgiven.
So it makes sense. And that comes with maturity and just understanding life and just understanding how growing happens. Because if not, you'll still be stuck in the same thing, and you're mad at this situation that is something old. And I'm a person that's in the present. I don't care about yesterday or tomorrow. It's about like right now. That's the only thing that exists.
I feel that.
So
right now, getting us back on track.
Mm-hmm. We got kind of deep, right?
Yeah, we did get deep, but that's what it's about. Okay. So I like the issues that we touched on, because we talked about not putting you in the box of being a basketball player, and I loved hearing your ideas on how you would make schools more secure. So I appreciate it.
Y'all could scratch those ideas.
No,
after
no, stand on it. I liked it.
No security and no guns for Miss Gransby. We'll figure something else out.
So after playing basketball and after deciding or developing plans for the future, how did you get into coffee and how did you end up in Puerto Rico?
All right. You want to get on the coffee first or the Puerto Rico?
Puerto Rico first, and then tell me how the coffee.
All right, so
and I like the fact that you have the coquille on here.
Oh, that's a fact. And they're out here trying to spray the cookies too.
Let's tell them what a coquille is.
We'll talk to you about that. A coquille is this. All right, if you come to Puerto Rico, right? I don't want to get too deep into it because I don't know the full history of the coquille, but there's a sound out here, and it's for some reason I won't say the new people, but there's people out here that's killing the coquilles because they don't like the sound. But it's a coquille. It's a beautiful sound. Like
it's a frog.
It's a frog. Sorry, I didn't explain it, but it's a one of one sound that I've been around the world. This is probably the only place, and it's like an amazing thing that makes Puerto Rico unique. And the coquille is like the staple of Puerto Rico. Like, you know, United States got the eagle, we got the coquille. And for me personally, as a Puerto Rican, I am super proud of the coquille. That's why I put it in the back of my coffee bag. But we'll talk about that in a second. Mm-hmm. As far as, you know, being Puerto Rican, my last name is Clemente. And I just learned how to pronounce my last name this year the correct way, believe it or not.
So are you going to take Spanish lessons, yes or no?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
I told you I'm doing a Duolingo.
No, for me.
Oh, for sure. For sure. We shake on that.
All right, shake on.
Boom, yeah, I got that on camera. So, you know, last name being Clemente, Roberto Clemente, famous baseball player, his family.
I did a book report on him in 8th grade.
You did
Roberto Clemente.
Roberto. But even knowing that was Ken, people will remind me, Clemente, and I'm like, I remember being on the lunch line at elementary school in kindergarten. Do you know who Clemente is? I'm like, yo, who is this Clemente guy? And I went to go visit my grandparents in Pennsylvania, and they would have like a little baseball toy of Roberto. It was like 2 or 3 of them, mm-hmm. and like little pictures. Mm-hmm. Oh, this is the guy everybody's telling me about. Mm-hmm. So off rip from day one, I didn't grow up in the same household as my dad, but when we go in corner stores, he speaks Spanish, and I didn't grow up in a Puerto Rican community.
So are both of your parents Puerto Rican?
Just my dad.
Okay.
You know, my grandparents is both born in Carolina. My dad was born in the Bronx. I didn't know that until his funeral. I didn't know my dad was born in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. But I figured that out on his funeral. I read the obituary. So hearing him speak Spanish, and like I know I'm Puerto Rican, but it didn't really hit, believe it or not, until 2009. Mm. That's when I came here to play basketball. So to cut over the long story, like I was always on my black side of my mom's family, being in Queens, just straight black community. When I came here in 2009, I got drafted by the Mayagüez Indios on the west side.
That's cool.
I've been with them for like 9 years, won a championship and everything. My first championship. And when I first came to Puerto Rico, I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm just thinking basketball. I'm going to get my money. I'm going to play pro ball. Yeah. Spanish women and all this other extra stuff that comes with the island. And slowly but surely, every year, yeah, the fans were fans, but over time, it started to become more of a family and more of home. And I was on the national team of Puerto Rico representing in 2013. And I went 9 years with the national team. When I first came here, I'm not going to lie to you, I was just doing whatever I wanted. You don't go in someone's backyard and just start checking stuff and doing what you want. You come in somebody's backyard, you try to understand how they operate in their backyard. You kind of understand their lingo. You try to understand what's the rules of their backyard. You don't just take. So I had to earn it. It wasn't, and still to this day, everyone doesn't accept me. Mm-hmm. I think I'm pretty loved on the island of Puerto Rico, but I can't say it's 100%. Mm-hmm. It's not 100%. I wouldn't even say it's 80%, whatever. I don't know the percentage, but I do get a lot of love out here. But I get a lot of love out here based on me willing to learn. Yeah. Me willing to accept, me willing to adjust. Like I listen to Frankie Ruiz.
So I guess that circles back to my question, mm-hmm. is that this is something that I've often pondered myself as well. Mm-hmm. How do you adapt and adjust without giving up your own cultural roots? So that's why I asked, like, catering to both by accepting, okay, I'm Puerto Rican. I'm going to, you know, honor these roots in this way. But at the same time, what I've had to learn over the years is that it should also be an exchange.
Mm-hmm.
So even in dating relationships, like I told you, instead of me adapting completely, it's like I'm adapting, I'm adjusting, but it's also a cultural exchange where you're going to understand that I'm also American.
1,000%.
And that these are, in Puerto Ricans, that's a tough topic to touch because they're U.S. territory.
Yeah.
So,
well, I think that's one of the reasons why I was so much liked is because I accepted everything here, but I still put my flair on it. I'm still going to remind you I'm from Queens, New York. You're still going to know I'm from Queens, New York.
Exactly. So that's what I was asking. Like, what about after you discovered those roots and you decided to implement certain aspects of that into your own life? What did you do to maintain where you come from?
Well, that's one thing that sucks, though, is when you're away from home so long, you really more likely you just adjust what's around you. Mm-hmm. I never forget who I am. I never forget my values and my principles. Mm-hmm. But also, most of the people that come with that mindset of I'm not going to adjust. It's me. It's what I do. That's ignorance. It doesn't go down like that. I've lived in Israel and I'm eating couscous and I'm doing what's the things on Friday nights? Shabbat. I've done Shabbat before. It's not even my culture, but I'm still going to show respect to my surroundings at the same time and never lost myself. In Israel, you're still going to know I'm from Queens, New York. But let's have the Shabbat meal and let's break bread. Like
you have to keep in mind that all of this, like what we're talking about is due to like personal experience. So you or I, like I could go to a country on deployment, walk into it, have a great time. And I'm showing that aspect of it where someone else could say, you know what? They're not being truthful because this is the aspect that I live
and it's like
every day.
I see this stuff all the time. And it's like, you see these people, they're in the comments complaining like, listen, I hear what you're saying, but man, I've lived in a lot of places and they do not have the freedom that we have. So you can complain about the United States all you want. If you don't like it, go find a country that's going to work for you. But I promise you it's not going to be the same. And this ain't me. I'm not even political. I don't have a Democrat, Republican. I don't care about none of that stuff. At the end of the day, I have to figure out how to get my own bag. So all of that stuff is cool. But at the end of the day, I got to go get my money the way I got to go get it. So I don't really get involved in politics like that. But when I see these people, they're on socials like, yeah, I'm in this country and it's only $10 for electric. I guarantee you, bro, you won't last for 5 years over there. I guarantee it. You won't have fun. It won't be because after a certain amount of time, you have to make money out there and they're not paying the same. You do the wrong thing. You put an apple in your pocket. They'll probably chop your arm off or throw you in jail for 100 years. There's certain rules and stuff. And you couldn't say anything about the government. You go in China, as soon as you walk in, they face scan you. You go to a vending machine. You don't have to use a card. You can literally look in the camera.
How long were you in China for?
Was there for like a month and a half in the World Cup. But
you were in the World Cup?
Yeah, I played in 2 World Cups.
Hey.
Yeah. So
that's an accomplishment.
No, thank you. But the thing is, like, they scan your face. You can't do anything. You get just cameras on every corner.
I saw that when they first were developing that technology.
It's real.
I know. I saw it and I was like, dang, imagine that. But
the vending machine, you pay with your face. You don't pull a card out. You look in the thing. It scans your face. It takes money off your card. They have a social scale. They don't have, I don't know if they have credit, but they have a social scale on how it's just different. And I dare you to talk about the government in one of those countries. They're throwing you away, bro. And no one's going to ever hear from you again. Yeah. China, you got to get a VPN just to use Twitter or Instagram. It's different. So people say how bad the United States is. And mind you, I come from the inner city. I don't want to sit here and sound privileged.
So what is your take on that though? Like, because I understand that we have, the right to freedom of speech. And I believe, which is why I started this podcast, that open dialogue is how people have a transformation of thought and are able to develop new concepts and ideas. But where do we draw the line with that? Because it's like,
let people talk.
You said let people talk, but at the same time, are you saying like, let them have their opinions, but
you want to know what's the best thing I like about Donald Trump being a president? What? And this is going to sound crazy.
What?
No, just that part sounds crazy of the best part. The best thing about Donald Trump is, Donald Trump is from Queens. Do I think he's racist? I think he has.
I did not know that. You taught me something.
Yeah, Donald Trump's from Queens. Do I think he's racist? I don't think. I hope no one thinks I'm a Trump supporter talking like this. I'm not. I'm just talking real. One of the best things when he ran for president, I live in a neighborhood in Georgia. I didn't know nothing about nothing in my neighborhood. I don't even know. This is gonna sound crazy. Once I go in my neighborhood, I know my neighborhood. The main street I don't even know the name of it. I don't know the number of the highway. That's how out of tune I am at home. When he was running for president, when I go out my neighborhood and it's the main strip, I go left. I went to go visit my brother-in-law. I see all of these Trump signs, Confederate flags. I never knew any of this stuff existed.
Oh, I did.
Until he ran. No, I knew the people existed. I didn't know where it was at. I didn't know it was so close to home. And I'm not saying every Trump supporter is racist.
Yeah.
But when you start seeing Confederate flags and you start seeing people in trucks with big Confederate flags in the back of the trucks. But here's the thing.
So mind you that I live in Texas. So there's a symbolism in what the Confederate flags used to mean, right? There's a lot of people who are trying to transform that. Do I agree with that? No.
Well, thanks for educating me on that, because that helps out a lot. I don't want to be ignorant to think every person with a Confederate flag is racist. I like to keep an open mind.
Right.
And
but it's like you have to know the history on both parts. So the history of it is that in the past it was used as a negative connotation to support racism, but that's not actually what it was for. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. And so I'm not condoning Confederate flags. I'm not saying that people who wave them around their trucks don't know what they're doing, because sometimes they do it to elicit a reaction. But I think it's exactly because of that, because people get so emotional about symbols and what they represent.
Well, I've seen KKK hoodies too.
Yeah.
That's Stone Mountain.
Yeah.
Rallies.
Yeah.
But the thing about the Confederate flag that you're saying, the thing is, I'm from Queens, New York. I've never seen anything like this. And I'm in the South in Georgia by myself.
Right.
No friends, no family, me and my dog.
Right.
So when I see these things, I'm just like, this is different. Usually I see these things on TV. Like,
yeah, you don't think that it's real.
And New York is a melting pot. Like I said, when I say like Greeks, and you can literally find a neighborhood for any part of the world. I promise you, in New York City, you will find it. So me seeing that, it was different. You know, but I'm glad you did educate me to help my ignorance, because I did not know. You take the power out of it. I've been in such this dude in.
Because I feel like some people do it to get a reaction.
1000%. Listen, there can be a dude that wouldn't have a quarter of the money I have, or a quarter of the assets or anything that I have, and they would think they're better than me because of the skin of the color of their skin. You got to kind of laugh at some things like that. It was a dude in Home Depot one time. His make America great again hat.
Why does that make people mad?
He felt.
Why do those hats make people mad? One of my friends gets so upset.
Yo, he tipped his hat and everything to me. I said, nice hat. But the thing is, even when I felt the power that he thought he had in that hat, like, dissolve.
Okay. So I can relate to that. Like you're from New York, so this is a term that I use all the time. I say, like, somebody tries to sun me, like, in the military.
Yeah. Facts.
Okay, so I would say I don't get that feeling toward racism. Maybe because I grew up with my black side and my white side. And that has given me a wider view, because black people are racist too. Oh, like 1,000%. I've had to tell some black people in my family, like, calm down. That's my mother. 1,000%. You're not going to disrespect her.
Right. 1,000%. So we're very loose with it, very open.
And it's all fun and games.
I call my dog White Boy. My homegirl, she's white. Shout out to her. She was in Canada, and she has a black dog. She said, "How would you feel if I call my dog Black Boy?" I said, "You can't say that."
Exactly.
Off rip.
Exactly.
Yeah. I know. We still have my ignorance too. I don't want to sit here like I'm perfect. Like,
it's
not that. But in the same sense of everything, I think there's a certain line. When I go into supermarkets, like, I don't put my hands in my pocket because I'm scared that they'll think I'm stealing.
Right.
There's little things like that it's just like, my mom's coming from born and raised in Lynchburg, Virginia. It's gonna sound crazy, but she kind of she tried to embed a fear in us on white people. But she grew up in that era where it was like segregation with water and stuff like that. And all I always hear is kind of like, respect that. And she probably do it without even knowing that's what she did. But when I got older and I got a little bit smarter, I would make sure I'll put her in situations to understand those days are no longer, you know?
Yeah.
And that's just what it is. And there's a lot of black people that think like this, especially older ones. Like when white people come around, it's like, yo, don't talk. It's the white man. And all this. I was just like, yo, chill, bro. I went to school in Kansas. I went to school in Texas. Something that was a view of what people made it. Like, shout out to the Clark family. It was a family in Kansas that took me in, the Clarks.
Oh, yeah.
The whole family's white.
Yeah.
Not a racist bone. Ramon, you good? You hungry? You want to eat? Like, whatever I needed in the legal way, because, you know, at the time you couldn't do anything crazy, but they took me in as their son. And I still speak to them to this day.
Right.
But if you're ignorant, and I told my boy this, if you don't get out that bubble, you're going to think ignorant. So that the guy with the family and the Ayo, he hasn't been anywhere. That family hasn't been anywhere. You have to be around people for people to embrace you, to really understand certain cultures and stuff. And I'm sure a lot of those people that are racist towards black people, you put them in the same circle, or you put them in the neighborhood with some black people for a few years, like, yo, it's really not that bad. Now
Well, I think in society, there's always going to be something because there's hierarchies.
yeah.
So think about it. The survival of the fittest thing, maybe it's not as savage as it used to be back in the day, but there's always going to be classism, racism, those different type of things that set people apart that, to make you feel superior.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, I'm not justifying it by any means to say like, oh, it's always going to exist. We just got to deal with it. I think, like you said, that it's just living our lives in a way that educate other people in the kindest way possible in order to break down some of those barriers that exist in mentalities that people have just either from how they were raised or certain things that happen, because there's other people who may have encountered, Black people that are ignorant, or Black people who have encountered white people that are ignorant and have bad experiences.
I'm happy you said that.
And they base their future interactions on those bad experiences.
Let me tell you something. One thing I keep mentioning Queens, New York, but it's a huge staple. And one thing, you see how you say I can't hear it? And I feel like I have to represent Queens. I have to represent New York as a whole. People think we're like rude and all of these things. And mind you, I was in a space where I was there before, but you represent something. When I go out there and I represent Puerto Rico, I take pride in that. So there's certain ways I have to carry myself. Even being from New York, like people just think we're just so rude and we don't care about things and we're selfish. It's like, nah, it's a little bit different. We also, it's nice people from New York.
I have met my handful of people who are like that.
Just wild or good?
Well, I would say that it took me a while to understand the cultural attributes of being desensitized. Because now they say the whole world has gotten desensitized. But I would say that the people that I know from New York, like, for example, the first time I ever saw somebody get shot was in the Bronx in Parkchester.
Yeah, you're in the right place for that. Shout out to the Bronx.
In Parkchester. And like when people would jump in trains, the individual that will jump on the trains and kill themselves. Like my friend was inconvenienced by that. And they would be like, oh, like, I got to get to class. And I was just like, oh my gosh.
1,000%.
Like, oh, like a person just died. Like,
1,000%.
Or people are stepping over the dead body that was just shot. Like, how could they?
Hurry up, I get to work. Straight up. Person be pouring their heart out. Yo, shut up, bro.
And so, but what I was just explaining to a Brazilian that I met here, she lives in New York, in Jersey, but she was talking about the culture of Jersey and New York. And I said to her, like, in that environment, the reality is that there is a substantial amount of things going on. I won't say just crime, but it's like you have to have your head on a swivel and you have to be alert. And like you said, it's tougher skin to where people don't intend to be rude. That's just how it comes off, a bit brash because of how it is. And so I hear what you're saying, that because of the reputation that area may have, that you feel like you have to represent in a different way. I don't think you have to represent in a different way. I think that the way you articulate yourself conveys those attributes in a smarter,
and you know what's crazy?
More intelligent way. Yeah.
I feel like everyone in New York has that.
But some people just can't articulate.
They can't articulate, but that comes to a point where you got to get out of that bubble, man. If you're in the wrong bubble, I'm not saying all bubbles in New York are bad, and I love home. I wouldn't change anything, but there's a reason why I moved to Georgia. I don't want to be in the same mindset.
You like a slower paced lifestyle?
Not even slower pace. I like to be isolated. And I'm not saying like I'm better than anyone in the neighborhood. I just know the space that I need to be in. And I don't want to face another kid that was one of the kids we were. And we weren't really that bad. It got way worse than what we were. But we were enough to, have somebody want to choke us or something like that, So to avoid certain things, I just remove myself from the situation.
From the environment.
Yes. Hopefully, and I still go back. I haven't been home in a long time. Don't get it twisted. Like I've done camps and stuff, but now I'm at a point now where I would love to go back to put my influence on the neighborhood. Like even if I had to sell my house in Georgia and move closer, I would do it. I'm open to it, not 100%, but I can't live in a life where I'm hiding all of this information and all of this education that I've learned and keep it to myself.
So that's what I would like to do in the future, is figure out a way to pour more back into communities in the educational environment. But I feel like a lot of people are trying to do that, and the route to properly do that, especially with all the issues that are going on that we talked about previously, with just like trying to secure schools, trying to make sure that teachers are paid well, because the people that really could pour back into those environments, it's like, if they're not getting paid enough, they got to eat too.
Gotta eat too. That's another.
I've seen that kids and people, when they have a genuine care, love for someone, they do things that respect that person.
I agree.
So like there's even myself, like there's leaders that I have where I'm like, I genuinely don't want to disappoint this person because I care about them that much, or I love them that much, or I respect them that much. And so I feel like when I've dealt with kids in those environments, one of the things is like, okay, are you responsible? Do you make those kids feel safe? Are you consistent? Can they count on you? And do you listen to them? Because at the end of the day, humans want to feel seen and heard. And so I feel like when you're providing those things, you don't have to deal with as many behavioral things. And even working with some of the kids who were coming on headstrong, if I would tell them like, man, I'm just so disappointed that you're acting that way, in that tone.
You know what's crazy?
A lot of times they would switch up.
But that's the kids I do the best with. Like, and because I got to let them know, like, bro, I don't know your situation. Like, my mom wasn't a crackhead or nothing like that. I wasn't doing drugs or anything growing up. So I can't relate with that.
Right.
But I know what it's like to grow up in poverty. I know what it's like to grow up in low income neighborhoods. I know what it's like.
But I think to connect, you don't always have to.
No. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying, just in general, like, sometimes I have to adjust my pivot. Because there might be a kid, and that's the best thing about being where I'm from and having the experience that I have. I can adjust to the room. I was talking in a juvenile prison in Ponce back, and I'm in a juvenile prison. I don't know what these kids are in here for, but I had to remind these kids, like, listen, just because this is your circumstances right now, this is not life.
Facts.
You know? So I do really well with the kids that's really, really going through something because I can relate. I can't relate with everything, but I can find a way to adjust. And I got my GED and ended up going to college, getting a bachelor's degree, you know, and this is me just hanging on the block, hanging in the neighborhood, all these situations. So I try my hardest, especially those type of kids, because those kids feel like there's no hope, because I was a kid that thought there was no hope.
Yeah.
Like, so I embrace those kids more. I get more respect out of those kids too. I probably got 95% like good rate with those type of kids. So it's just, I don't want anyone getting comfortable. That's why I mentioned, I don't want nobody getting comfortable by thinking I'm so cool. But usually those kids that's like too cool and they think they're going something, that's the ones I pull to the side. I give them a little extra attention. I don't baby them though. There's no babying at all, because I might have an hour or two with you. From there, you go out in the world. I could talk to you for an hour or 2 hours. I was a kid too. I might remember one line that you said.
Yeah.
But I want to make sure that one line impacts you as something that you remember for the rest of your life. So when you do make decisions, you're like, yo, I don't remember that dude's name, but dude was talking my head off. But I remember him saying, trust your instincts.
Yeah.
Let me get up out of this situation. And if that works, my job is done.
Well, with that being said, on Deep Dive Dialogues, we normally end with an impactful quote. But before we do that, so looking into the future, what do you hope to accomplish with this brand that you've started?
With my coffee brand, I love this conversation we had. The coffee was cool. Listen, y'all, the coffee, clementescafe.com, and on the website and stuff. If y'all want more information about the coffee, y'all can get that. But I think the conversation that we had was way more important than coffee, 1000%. As far as the Clemente's Cafe, what I want the consumers or anyone that, side note, how was the
coffee was bomb.
Fact.
Like,
cool. This is no lie.
Yeah, no lie, no cap, no advertisement. He made me some coffee and it was bomb.
So what I want people to understand what Puerto Rico has to offer. You know, this is basically, I'm just bringing the homeland to people's cups that probably don't have the opportunity to come here, or they just want that feeling of Puerto Rico. I think it's a different type of coffee. It's a rare taste. It's a really high quality coffee at the same time. And this is not even being a salesman. I just love coffee. I wanted to find a way to stay connected to the island. I know a lot of guys, when they get done playing basketball, they just go home, they go live their lives. I found a way to still come to Puerto Rico when I'm done. Maybe next year I'll probably retire. I find a way to still come to Puerto Rico, still be connected. And I plan on giving like proceeds to certain parts of the island. I'm just trying to give the education of Puerto Rico through my coffee. So it'll be so much information coming from here. It's not just a bag, like the website and everything's gonna have information, like postcards and stuff when I send out. For subscribers, they'll get special stuff from Puerto Rico. So that's just the goal. I'm just bringing Puerto Rico to your cup.
Okay, so now if you had to leave people with one deep quote from you, what would it be?
Those who live in the past are destined to fail in the future.
Mm.
So with that being said, reason why I don't like being called a basketball player, because then I'll be living in the old days. Like, I sell coffee now.
But you still play basketball.
I still do play basketball 100%, but in the same sense, I'm more in a different stage of my life in basketball. I'm just enjoying the fruits of my labor. I'm enjoying the moments right now. I'm enjoying watching the young players grow, make their mistakes, and try to fight through certain situations as I once did. So yes, I'm still a basketball player, but it's more different now. I think now is, even though I'm older and stuff, but I think now is the time that I've really became like a full circle man. And as a man, it's crazy. They say we develop a little bit later than women, but I understand why. Yeah. I understand things a little bit different. I think on the outside a little bit more. So yeah, that's mainly it right there.
Okay. Well, I appreciate your time. I appreciate you making time.
No, I appreciate you.
And I love the conversation. So you heard it here first. And we look forward to having your coffee on a regular basis. I'll drink your coffee for real. If you send me coffee, I'll drink it.
I got you for sure. Appreciate you.